In this video, we are going to take a look at how to get users' current location using JavaScript. So you can think of a use case like an e-commerce website or a local store search application where the application not only needs to provide search results based on the search input, but also based on the user's location. Even better use case you can think of is that application needs to plot user and those stores on a map within the application to provide a customized experience. In HTML5's navigator object, we have a geolocation API. This API gives us two functions to get users' current position. First one is called get current position. This is a once fire and forget type function which will give you users location one time it is called. The another one is called watch position. Watch position basically lets you attach a listener to location updates happening in the system for user. This returns a listener ID which we'll take a look at shortly. So get current position you can think of using in situation where you had to search for local stores, so you'd get users location once and then you'd use that info to show them local options for food, shopping, etc. Watch position, however, is something that you'd use when you have to plot user moving on the map within the application. But since this is not a fire and forget API, we are adding a listener manually. We need some way to detach this listener in the future. This is where clear watch comes in. This is the third and final function that geolocation provides us. It takes into listener ID as parameter, which is returned by the watch position function, and it unregisters that particular listener instance from location updates. So geolocation API has some caveats attached to it that we'll talk about at the end of the video, but for now let's get into the implementation. So here we have a HTML page set up for us that says geolocation API, and it also has a script file attached to it which is empty for now, but we'll start filling it up. So let's start with putting a button that says get current location, and on click it calls get current location function that will put in the JS file function get current location. I should probably mention that all the navigator APIs are sort of part of the progressive enhancement, so it's not necessary that every browser has implemented them. So as a good practice, it's better if you check for the API existence every time you use a navigator API. So I have put a if statement here, if navigator.geolocation else alert browser does not support geolocation exclamation, and but if there is the navigator geolocation API will called navigator.geolocation.get current position. You can see it takes in three parameters: a success callback, an error callback, and an options object. We'll talk about each of them one by one. So let's get started with the success callback. You can potentially supply an anonymous function here, but I just as a practice like to name my functions, so it's better for debugging and anyone else looking at my code can also see what I'm trying to do here. So on success, on error, success will have a result, error will have an error, and for now we'll just log both of these, result and error. Okay, let us see how it looks in our browser. Let's open up the console and click get current location. As soon as I clicked on this button, I saw the URL bar indicating that the location is active on this website, and it gave me after some time geolocation position object which has geolocation coordinates and a timestamp. Geolocation coordinates then again have accuracy, altitude accuracy, heading, latitude, longitude, speed. So depending on what data is available and what sensors are there in my machine, it gives me all the results. Usually you would only deal with latitude and longitude. Let's now take a look at the errors object. I go here and I disallow location permission, reload, get current location. We get a geolocation position error. This log is from the errors callback, and it has a code of 1 that says user denied geolocation. There are 3 error states of geolocation get current position function that basically are either permission denied, we just saw, or position unavailable, which is when the hardware does not support or for any reason system is not able to fetch the current user's location, GPS is not there, whatever. Third is a timeout. Now we'll take a look what is a timeout. So as a third and optional parameter, again the only required parameter here is the on success callback. On error and options are both optional parameters. Options takes in 3 flags: enable high accuracy, which is false by default, but you can turn it to true, which will improve the accuracy of the location. Maximum age, this you can provide in milliseconds, and it sort of indicates how old of a location you are ready to settle with. So here I have given 10 seconds. That means if the system has location which is under 10 seconds, then it can just give me that value instead of refetching it. And the third is timeout. So in timeout, again milliseconds, I can tell system how much time it should wait before it has user's location. So if the system is not able to provide user's location in 10 seconds, or let's just say 5 seconds, then this request will time out, it will call on error, and it will have the code of timeout. Next, let's take a look at how watch position function works, how to go about its implementation. So we'll go back to our code editor, rename this button to watch changing position, and also rename the function to add position, add location listener. We need to change the function's name here, rest works as same. Now navigator.geolocation.watch position, again same, success, on success, on error, and options. Options are the same: enable high accuracy, true, timeout, freshness, etc. Result, log results. Error is the same, let's log error 2, but will not test error this time because it's the same as get current position that we have already seen before. The new thing with this one is, let's just first run this code and then I'll show you the new thing with this one. So I am going to allow my location, which I had disabled earlier, reload watch changing position, and we have this location icon here again. This time we have enabled high accuracy, so our accuracy should have improved. Yeah, we were getting 25 something last time, but it's 18 now. Again, we have the same geolocation coordinates object wrapped within the geolocation position object. Let us now try changing our location to Berlin, and it gives us a new callback, a new object in the callback, which has different coordinates, basically Berlin's coordinates. So more tools, sensors, location, no override, cross. This is how we can attach a listener on the changing user's position. But let me click this button again and again and again. So what is happening basically in the background is I am attaching multiple listeners on the location updates. So if I again go to more tools, sensors, location, change to London, I should have a bunch of callbacks. So it's the same function which is being executed, but the listener instances are different. That is why we need the navigator.geolocation.clearWatch function that takes into the listener ID that watch position has returned previously. So if I just run this command and I'll put a log listener attached, comma, its ID, and listener detached, we will not see any logs now. Listener attached, detached, attached. Although there is the location fetching happening in the background, but we don't see any logs here, because as soon as I am attaching the listener, I am also detaching the same listener in the next two lines, and it's just not listening for location updates anymore. So ideally, if I had to write a code like this, in this simple scenario, what I'll do is I'll call it here, move this listener up the scope, let equals to, I just prefer giving a default value to my variables. And now what's happening is we have a listener ID with -1. For the first time when user clicks on this button, it will clear watch -1, which will do nothing, and it will update the listener ID with watch position listener we have just attached. It will continue working until the next button clicks. When user clicks on this button again, it will first detach the last listener added and then attach a new listener. So at one time we only have one listener going on. Let's watch this in execution. Watch changing location, second, third, and if I go to more tools, sensors, London to Berlin, I will have one location from, of course, London, and the second one from Berlin. So if I go again, if I click it bunch of times, go again, more tools, sensors, Berlin to Shanghai, two callbacks again, one from Berlin, one from Shanghai. Yeah, this is how watch position works, and this is how we should be using it. We should always remember to clean up any listeners attached when they are not needed. Moving on to the last section of this video, let's talk about caveats of using the navigator geolocation API. So one thing is that it can only be accessed via secure context. What does it mean? It means that if you are using this API in your website, it has to have its own SSL certificate, or in simple terms, it needs to be served via HTTPS, not HTTP. If, however, you are using this in your extension, then your extension's manifest will have to provide beforehand that it is going to use the geolocation API. This is probably because of privacy and security reasons. Yeah, that is everything about Navigator's geolocation API. Let me know if you have any suggestions, feedback, or questions. You can drop them in comments below, and I will see you in the next video.